Faced with the expansive nature of migration, we envisioned an equally exhaustive everythingist response. Everythingness in architecture is most commonly known through avant-gardist architect Hans Hollein, in which he tests and expands the limits of architecture beyond the built environment. Myriad issues which shape our built environment, such as economics, policy, technology, are all part of the equation. Architecture as everything starts with the nature, fluidity, time, cost, and distance of migration both globally and regionally.
Our history as migrants predates our history as a species. Driven by one of the same forces, survival, approximately 272 million people, or 3.5% of the global population, is involved in international migration. Another 740 million people are migrating within their national borders, and currently 70.8 million people have been forcibly displaced. Motivated by forces such as political upheaval, persecution, economic opportunity, and environmental change, the path forward is a decision based on time, cost, and distance. Migration in Central America today has been classified as a crisis. With large numbers of people fleeing from violence and poverty, the journey through Central America found its focal point in Mexico. Many arrive with hopes of reaching the U.S., but are often forced to return or enter a state of stagnancy. As a result of large caravans taking this journey, the city of Tapachula by the southern border became a highly publicized migrant stop. The term human capital is used in economics to describe the intangible value of one's knowledge, skills, and ability to produce. Like financial capital, this form of capital benefits from fluidity, which removes obstructions from the matching of supply and demand. As geographic mobility increases within an economy, so does productivity. Mobility allows an economy to quickly adapt and capture opportunity. From place to place and the non-places in between, a migrant encounters obstacles that carry both financial and intangible costs, such as fees for smugglers or the potential loss of life. Unlike the physical spaces occupied on a migrant's journey, digital space is more willingly afforded to the migrant. As both a tool for organizing and a memory device, the digital realm can offer escape from physical realities. Every journey has a fixed origin. The path forward varies based on innumerable conditions such as transportation infrastructure, border enforcement, and known dangers, which include deserts, jungles, and cartel territories. The migrant's decision is based on a subconscious calculation of the risks and rewards associated with a route. The strength of their decision is directly related to the quality of information used in this calculation. The costs invested provide a return to the migrant in the form of distance over time or speed. Information becomes the fourth variable. History has proven the value of human capital based on the ability to produce, innovate, and contribute both economically and culturally. Fluidity is provided in the service of financial capital, but policy and borders act to limit the fluidity of the human. What if this contradiction was corrected by supporting the flow of migrants to the United States? The answer is imagined as a metadata cooperative where information related to time, distance, and cost is collected, vetted, and exchanged among migrant members to address stagnancy and loss. The information exchange is formalized as a QR code physically plotted within spaces in the migrant's journey. This metadata cooperative is a virtual environment that enables the exchange of accurate information by migrants and a verifying algorithm. We use the medium of a graphic novel to speculate the flow of 4 different people who use the QR code during their journey.
My name is Rosa Domingo. This is my story. I arrived in Mexico with my son and the child in my belly, and 2 men who I met on a bus in Guatemala. We entered by crossing the Suchuate River, where camareros carry goods and people cross the river by day and assist migrants in their passage by night. We paid 20 pesos per person for our voyage and then started our walk towards Tapachula. We spent our money on the journey, Carl and Avik much more than I due to the long distance between there and here. The codes along the route helped us save money. For me, from Honduras to Hidalgo, there were some on stands by the bus stop, others painted on the wall. For Avik, there were even ones by the airport in Mumbai. Carl too saw them painted in the back of trucks in Mabenda and Istanbul. It gave us all sorts of information and tracked our distance, cost, and time. Avik is a young man from India. He was a law student. He left because of death threats from the opposing political party. Carl is an older man from Cameroon. He's an English-speaking truck driver in a French-speaking state. He faced discrimination. He left because of economic opportunity. I was an English teacher in Honduras. I counseled children against gang recruitment. The gangs retaliated by murdering my husband and sending me death threats. I had to flee for my life. When we got to Tapachula, we used the code to find shelter. We were exhausted from the 2-hour walk from the river. The Central Park in Tapachula was a space of gathering. Migrants from everywhere were there. The first time we sat by the park, we were approached by La Policía. They asked us for papers. We had just arrived. We didn't have any papers. So, they took us to the detention center. They were so crowded. We ended up staying there for 3 weeks. When we finally received papers, we were told that we had to wait for exit papers. Because of the influx of migrants, they didn't know how long it would take, so we had to wait in Tapachula. We stored our temporary papers on our phones. There was a feature in the code for that. We stayed in a room that we all rented in Tapachula by all the hotels. I was worried about my baby all through the journey. Where would I give birth? It became scarier when I started having severe cramps. I knew it would be soon. Our money was slowly decreasing. We had to pay for the room and food. Carl and Avik even more so. They both started looking for jobs, and Avik eventually found a job at the Indian restaurant we went to often. The owner is a sweet lady. She caters food to the cuisines of the migrants. Carl calls her Mama Africa, and Avik calls her Kalama. Carlos was 6 then. He wanted to be a child. He wanted to play. We ended up finding a playground for migrant children. I was happy this journey didn't entirely rob him of his childhood. There was a day at dinner that changed everything for us. We encountered a migrant who was returning from Tijuana. He had made it all the way up to the northern border, but returned because there were U.S. border patrols everywhere. He couldn't get through. It had me and Carl worried. Avik was still young. Nothing seemed to scare him. A few weeks later, I gave birth to my baby daughter, Bella. I received help through IOM and learned that Bella was a Mexican citizen by birth. That helped me get my Mexican residency sooner. Carl decided to stay in Tapachula too. He started working in the Indian restaurant. Avik went on to continue the journey. He was determined to go to the U.S. The journey isn't what I expected. It wasn't easy, but we were aided by the information through the QR code. We learned the power of information. It was similar to money for us. It gave us speed and direction. It opened up doors to other doors and allowed me to stay here. It allowed Carl to get a job and send money back to his family. It helped Avik realize and direct his journey up north. What a long journey this has been.